Hello, and welcome to the second season of the IT's Her Future podcast. This series is aimed at giving an insight into various careers in the technology space that you might be unfamiliar with and hear from guests who work in these areas. I'm your host, Neve, and this month we'll be discussing the area of project management with our guests Paulina Newman and Zoey Daley-Johnson. So, Paulina, would you like to introduce yourself and just give a bit of a rundown about your background?
Sure. Hi all. My name is Paulina Newman and I'm a delivery director at KPMG. I moved to the UK in 2003 and I lived in London for 16 years before settling down on the outskirts of Colchester. I love learning, and since arriving in the UK, I finished my bachelor's degree followed by master's in international business and banking and my MBA in management consulting. I also hold many professional certifications. After I finished my master's, I've worked in investment banking and then I embarked on sales before eventually moving to IT consulting, where I started my project management career. I have gained my experience managing multinational teams by delivering projects to their agreed scope on time and on budget. And in the last 14 years, due to my project management and delivery role, I was able to execute multiple end-to-end implementations whilst working in many locations with clients ranging in size, coming from across a range of industry verticals, including higher education, managed services, housing, pharma, finance, and the local gov.
Great, thank you very much for that introduction, Paulina. And Zoey, how about yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm Zoey. I live in the northeast of England with my wife, my 3 children, and my Dalmatian dog. I'm a true northerner at heart. I love the great outdoors regardless of the weather, which is absolutely a requirement for obviously living in the northeast. My professional background and skill set is varied. This is also known as a jack of all trades and master of none. 15 years back, prior to venturing into technology sector, I worked in automotive, engineering and construction industries. I did this whilst finalising my masters in international business. I joined KPMG as a programme manager just short of 4 years ago, and I can confidently say that was a great move. KPMG provides you with the opportunity to grow on a clear development path if you want it. My career to date has been successful in developing, shaping and delivering multiple global transformation programmes, as well as highly complex strategic projects, working with multicultural teams to successfully drive customer satisfaction, predictability outcomes, whilst building strong lasting relationships.
Thank you both for introducing yourselves. So the first question I have today is, what is project management from a tech perspective? So Zoey, can you tackle this question?
Absolutely. So I've got 2 key statements here that really firm up what project management is. And one looks at it from a delivery and one looks at it from a discipline, both actually hitting the primary requirements from a technology perspective. So first statement is project management is crucial for helping companies or organisations deliver projects on time and within the available resource constraints in today's highly competitive global business world. And then the second, slightly different in context, project management is a discipline of using established principles, procedures and policies to guide a project from conception through to completion. So one is talking absolutely about what we do in project management to deliver successful outcomes for the client, and also the mechanisms and resources required to actually deliver on time, with quality and in budget. And the other one is talking about the actual discipline that is required, not just of the team, but equally the methodology and how we actually deliver based on principles, procedures and policies. And of course, throughout the podcast, we will talk around a little bit more in terms of those particular methodologies that really enforce those 2 statements.
So just to lead on from that, Paulina, what would you say are the differences in managing agile versus waterfall projects? And perhaps for our listeners who might not know what agile and waterfall is, can you give a little explanation?
So firstly, agile and waterfall are 2 very distinctive but well-known project management methodologies. Both of them are popular in technology delivery, but each is best suited for a different type of projects. Traditional waterfall approaches will tend to treat scope as the driver and calculate the consequential time and cost with tasks, which are generally handed in a more linear process. Agile, on the other hand, is an iterative methodology that incorporates a collaborative process with a committed set of resources over limited periods to deliver products that are developed over successive cycles. So let me take you through some differences, advantages, and potential blending of these two methodologies next. Let's start with the waterfall methodology. This methodology is a linear sequential delivery model. Waterfall model follows the sequential order with a clear entry and exit criteria between each phase. The project can only move to the next phase if the exit criteria is met. Waterfall is one of the easiest models to manage. Because of its nature, each phase has specific deliverables and also a review process associated to it. It works well for smaller size projects where requirements are easily understandable and are standard. And it gives you that faster delivery of the project and processes and results that are well documented. And it's also very good to manage dependencies if you are running a project as part of a larger program. So let's look at the Agile project management next. Agile is an iterative approach to delivering a project throughout its life, and Agile project life cycles are composed of several iterations or incremental steps towards the completion of the project. One of the aims of an Agile or iterative approach is to release benefits throughout the process rather than only at the end that you would expect at waterfall engagements. At the core, Agile projects should exhibit central values and behaviors of trust, flexibility, empowerment, and collaboration, and providing you with more control, better productivity, better quality, and also increased flexibility. So when it comes down to one project management approach or the other, probably you're wondering now, why not use both? Both of these project management methodologies are popular in software development, but each is best suited for different types of projects. As a reason, nowadays, many organizations are using a hybrid methodology, which is a blend between Agile and Waterfall. Selecting the right methodology for the project will depend on your preference and also the nature of each project. Some projects require a more iterative process and others require a more sequential approach. As appealing as a pure Agile approach can be, most projects don't have eternally open-ended timelines or budgets, and sometimes they need a little help from the structure of the waterfall management system.
Great. Thank you both for helping us build a better idea as to what project management is, but also styles of managing. So what would you say are some key skills that are required to be a project manager, Zoe?
So I believe the key skills to be a project manager come from two areas: personal attributes and business attributes. So from a personal perspective, you absolutely need to be self-motivated. You need to be a people person, and you absolutely need to be organised, and it needs to come within you. From a business perspective, we'll talk a little bit about planning. Project management at heart is effective planning, and it's the core throughout any project. It's a continuous cycle, and the continuous cycle feeds into the monitoring and reviewing as well. So you've got to be interested, but equally have the skills required to be able to focus in on any said part of a plan to enable the whole piece of the jigsaw to be put together and work and move in the right direction. I absolutely believe at the core heart of it is people. You need to understand people, but equally you need to be able to motivate, not just be self-motivated, but be able to motivate others and encourage others. So that's looking at their personal development requirements and supporting their development throughout the project and supporting them in understanding where they need to strengthen their skill set. You need to be aware of your stakeholders, who the project will affect, who will be impacted by the project itself, and actually what impact will it have to the wider organisation as well. So this actually touch bases on stakeholder and change management. Now, a lot of people have a preconception that change management falls under project management. It's a complete separate skill set in its entirety. But as a project manager, you absolutely need to confidently understand change management and stakeholder management. And I think that the final one for me is to be able to resolve conflict. Not every project goes swimmingly well. You have to be open to change, and conflict and change often come hand in hand. And therefore, it's how we manage and we deal effectively with those conflicts and the change. And again, how we communicate them retrospectively out to the stakeholders.
Thank you for that. I think it was really interesting how you brought up being a people person, but also how layered being a people person is. So as you touched on, there are some challenges. So what would you say are some of the challenges that you've faced within project management, Zoe?
Yeah, so for me, 15 years has been a lot of challenges, to say the least. And I think if I was to actually break it up, I would definitely look at methodology and governance as the two key things. So if I talk a little bit more around the methodology, so some of the challenges that we often face with our clients is that they often want to deviate away from the methodology that we've put in place, which is realistically what drives the actual plan. If we deviate away against the methodology, it can have a direct impact to quality, time, and cost. So that's one of the challenges that we often are faced with. And normally that's due to the stakeholders not understanding the methodology, the approach, or the actual outcomes of the methodology per phase. I'm thinking about something Paulina was discussing in terms of the differences between agile and waterfall methodologies. Whilst there is absolutely great benefits of blending methodologies, this has to be managed tightly. And again, it needs to be communicated effectively so that it's understood by all stakeholders which aspects of the overall methodology you're actually blending. So often this is a challenge that we face. And then I think the governance one can be split into two areas. So it's the governance of the actual programme from start to finish, and effectively it could be anything from managing change to managing risk or issue resolution. But it also could be the actual individual methodology that you put in place to understand how you're actually going to communicate with the teams and operate on a day-to-day basis. And more often, where I feel the governance falls down is that communication part. So it's going right to the beginning when effectively you have initiated the programme and you may not have set the programme in the correct manner to therefore understand the direction of the programme, and also not communicated that effectively to all of the individuals that are impacted by the project itself. And for me, that rolls into the whole stakeholder and change management process that we were discussing that actually stipulates those key skills required to be a project manager.
So to contrast, Paulina, what would you say are some of the more enjoyable aspects of being a project manager?
There are a number of areas that I enjoy personally about project management. So firstly, what I like the most is working with, creating and leading diverse international teams, as well as being able to learn from each other and utilize our skills to deliver a long-lasting outcome to improve our overall productivity, culture, and morale of the company. Zoe touched on this, and I love working with the teams as I'm able to motivate them, coach them, and be their leader to achieve the project goals and help my team to become the best at what they can be. Learning is a lifelong experience, and crafting a team with varied thoughts, backgrounds, and inputs enables creative ways to solve problems. Project management is a career where you are constantly working with new technologies to improve the working practices. The technology, people, problem, processes, the environment change in every project, which gives you opportunity to learn new things, will make it constantly engaging and interesting. Trust me, from my experience being in that world for the last 15 years, you will never feel bored if you are fully involved and engaged with your team and your projects. Secondly, you will feel rewarded when you keep your project schedules on track, meet the budget, collaborate with your colleagues to ensure everything runs efficiently. With project work, it's easy to see how your contribution makes a difference. What gives me a lot of pride is seeing the delivery of the engagements I'm leading from their start to finish and helping my clients to deliver a lasting value and improve efficiency while saving money to increase the organization's performance as a whole by using the technology. By working collaboratively with your clients, giving careful considerations to the scope, schedule, budget, communications, risks, issues, and stakeholders involved, we can collectively plan the project in a manner to achieve the best successful outcomes.
Thank you for that. And as you mentioned, I can imagine how highly rewarding project management is, especially if you have followed a project from beginning to end. So finally, just to wrap up this podcast, what's some advice you would give to somebody looking to get into project management, Paulina?
My advice would be to be open to change. As I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I've changed my career a couple of times, but that enabled me to understand my strengths and what I wanted to do long term. I always loved leading teams and solving the issues my clients were facing, so moving into consulting and then becoming a project manager seemed like a no-brainer. Second advice I would give is to not only work closely with your team to ensure you deliver the engagements on time, on budget, and to the previously agreed scope, but also to keep your client in the heart of everything you do. By working collaboratively and understanding your client's needs, you will be able to advise them strategically on how to achieve their planned business objectives and fulfill their business case so that the engagement is recognized as a successful one at the end of the project. Make sure that your clients get accurate and consistent communication and also be transparent about any issues and risks, as this will enable you to jointly work on addressing them and finding the mitigations to ensure that your engagements are not derailed. You should also send regular engagement surveys to determine the key metrics in terms of areas of strength and potential improvement. When you understand the way your customers feel about their experience with you and your business, you stand the best chance of increasing their satisfaction and also that long-term loyalty.
Thank you very much, Paulina. So Zoe, is there anything you would like to add to what Paulina has said?
If I was going to give someone who's looking to get into project management some advice, I would give it a little bit more of a personal touch. Think about the success of project management. Who drives success and what does success look like? If there's anything that stays with you from today's podcast, make sure it is this. Remember, your team is your best asset that you have. As a PM, whilst we are overall accountable and responsible, it is vital that you work as a team. Create an environment that is supportive, stretching, respectful and empathetic to the needs of the project and the team. I believe in building strong, high-performing teams. Each team member has a skill set. Finally, project management is the ability to lead, delegate and support.
Thank you both for your advice and for being guests on the podcast today. It was great to hear your insights, and I hope those listening have learned a lot about the area of project management. If you think a career in tech or within KPMG is for you, please go to our website www.kpmgcareers.co.uk. If you wish to reach out to us or to IT's Her Future to ask any questions, or if you have any topics you think we should cover, the email is itsherfuture@kpmg.co.uk. Thank you for listening.